That's it. So, who I am, this is the introduction. I hope you feel very good with this introduction about the projects that I made in the line. But what are the topic that we are gonna present in this Cypress Conf that I'm really, really happy to be here and I really appreciate to be in this presentation that it's called Revolutionize Your Testing with Design Patterns in Cyprus. About me, I have been working in IT in general 12 years in different kind of level of systems analyst, QA, automation engineer, lead manager, and in some cases entrepreneur. I have some different ways to try to learn and teach the people how we can use different automated tools like Selenium, obviously Cypress and other like Playwright. You can see my email, LinkedIn, the YouTube, where I have some videos. In this case, are mostly in Spanish because while talking about English, we have a lot of information, and we have the Talent Institute. It's for the people that wants to learn a little bit of automation, but definitely it's in Spanish. And my LinkedIn, if you want to connect with me, I am very very happy to have a connection. Also my Facebook. So, what will be the agenda for this short conference? Will be what is the design pattern? We need to be sure what we have a concept about design patterns because maybe some people understand the design pattern in one way and other people in other. So we try to put all in the same line in order to know what this is. So what the types of design patterns? Maybe you know what kind of types. We will have a big bunch of these design patterns. We will talk about it. The importance now applied to automation. Definitely, that is the first or the part of the important topic that we need to talk about automation and about why we can implement in Cypress. Page of your model. This is a design pattern that we can say is very very common when we are talking about test automation engineers. They know how to use or they know the concept basic on page of the model. We will go deeper to this page of the model of POM in order to see how we can implement the benefits, disadvantages, and advantages that we have. Decorator pattern. This pattern will help us to decorate all classes or methods. Fluent interface. We will go inside to see what means Fluent and why you can use it. And factory pattern, some pattern that is very, very used not only in automation, in all the software development, but also in the design process. We will go deeper in the demo that we have at the end, but you will see when we continue with this presentation, you will see that we have a big number of those. And I will explain you why I only choose those for this presentation. So let's talk about what's a design pattern. Patterns are usually presented in a formal and detailed manner to allow their application in various contexts. Generally, the description of a pattern includes the following section. The first is the purpose. The purpose of the patterns provide a concise summary of the problem it addresses and its corresponding solution. The second is the motivation. This section delves into the problem and how the pattern offers an effective solution. The structure, the class structure details the component of the pattern and how they interact with each other. And the code example. An example implementation in a popular programming language, Java, C Sharp, Ruby, wherever, helps to better understand the essence of the pattern. So let's move to the types of design patterns. And we have here in the circle, one big circle saying design pattern have three different types that we can split into creational patterns. Those creation patterns are used to implement flexibility and promoting the reuse of existing code. Now we have the behavioral design patterns. These behavioral patterns are focused on facilitating effective communication and the correct distribution of responsibilities among objects. And the last could be structural pattern, which guide the combination of objects and classes into large structures, ensuring both flexibility and efficiency of those structures. So this is not more important creational than behavioral. This is only the way that we can uh, split these three types. In creational is more important, is behavioral is not more important than structural. It's just the way that we can have our design patterns split it and define the types that we have in a big picture. So in the next slide, we're gonna check because we have in the design pattern class scope and object scope. In this case, for example, when we're talking about classes, it's about relation between classes and subclasses, statically defined at runtime. And if we talk about scope, object scope, we are talking about what type or can be manipulated at runtime. And if it's yes, so what? We have the creational, structural, and behavioral, the three types that we saw in the previous slide. But we are going to check class and
Hey, Gilberto. Just coming
yeah.
on to let you know that we lost the screen share. So if you wouldn't mind sharing your screen again, so everyone could, that'd be great.
There we go. Checking. Okay. Okay. So we continue. We have the creational, structural, and behavioral. We saw the three different types. Class and object, as I mentioned, we have two different based on this type. So when we are choosing these three, we have creational in the class scope, factory method. This is the design pattern. This is the name. We have a structural adapter class, and we can include here page object model. And also in behavioral, at class scope, we have interpreter. Now, when we have the object scope, in creational, we have abstract factory, builder, prototype, and singleton. In a structural, we have adapter object, composite, decorator, facade, bridge, flyweight, and proxy. And behavioral at object scope, we have template, method, Fluent interface, command, iterator, mediator, memento, observer, strategy, and visitor. You see, we have big number of design patterns. I'm gonna take only some of those just to put into the example. And that doesn't mean you need to implement all the design patterns. You need to understand what is the intention of each of those. And then when you understand it, you can, for example, start implementing one, two, or more those design patterns. If you, for example, need an element that you are waiting information, you are sending information, maybe observer could be a good option. Or if you are iterating, definitely over different kind of elements, for example, web elements or data into an Excel file or JSON file, maybe iterator design pattern could help. So the intention is that you need to know why is the intention of the design pattern. At least if you are using one and it's helping you. Normally in automation, we can say page object model is the most common. Uh, it's useful, definitely. Has weakness, yes, has weakness like spaghetti code, and we will see what are the disadvantages. But when we try to combine, or the intention to combine the same pattern is this: try to avoid the weakness that other design patterns have, or framework, or project has inside. So, what is the importance of design patterns in test automation? This the same pattern. I haven't seen very implemented in a big number of projects. It's only in few of them, but it's apply. They play a vital role in test automation. Give us advantages, a big number of advantages or numerous advantages, and definitely benefits that significantly enhance the effectiveness of automated tests. Let's see points that will give you why it's important. The first is improve code readability by providing a structured and standardizing approach to test automation. And the second is promote code reusability, a crucial aspect of efficient test automation, and have a long term impact on test automation efficiency and effectiveness. When we are creating our strategy and test automation strategy, even manual automation strategy, we need to be care of these two words, efficiency and effectiveness, because that will give us a very good results when we start automating and we complete our test automation, reducing cost, reducing headaches, reducing problems, and try to maintenance the framework or the project about or the automation project. Let's start with the page object model. This is a pattern that maybe in the community of test automation engineers, we know this is the first pattern that you have a lot of information about how to implement it, what is the intention, but let's see what this means. Page object model, it's the intention of you have your web page with different elements, text boxes, buttons, link text, and whatever web element that you can have in your application. And you need to map into a test class, object class, sorry. This page class has the same elements, but now transform into code that we can identify the element, the button, the text box, the link text, or whatever element that we have. This is the structure when we have the UML mode. We can have or instance of objects we can have of different pages, for example, login page, home page, and whatever page that you need, and the element 1, 2, 3, or the element that you need to explain. In the right side, you have the login page, very simple an example, and it's like field username. We need to identify the username and then type field password, identify the object, and then type it, and then submit. And also, page object model gives you the option to create like complete methods about login, or you can just split into the different actions or behaviors that you will have for the web that you are using, the web page that you are emulating into the page. So it's not so complex. It's just elements, actions, put into classes. We have the decorator pattern. The decorator pattern is simple as this guy tried to dress in some way based on a Friday or business casual Friday, or you need to use more formal dress. So we can put different elements in order to dress it based on the day or based on the situation. That doesn't mean if we don't put this kind of clothes over him, it will not do their own responsibilities or they don't do actions. We only are adding some clothes in order, for example, for the winter, for the business day, for the casual day. That is the corrector. We put something in a base in order to increase abilities in this case, or in this case, increase clouds. In the UML structure that we will have something or 2 points very important: component and decorator. The component will be the first item that we will use, object, class, or whatever we need. And then the decorator is how we will add power ups to this object, to this component. So in this example, we can see the log decorator. It only add logs when we need it. We can just start writing our code and put the line ci.log to see what's happening. But imagine try to do this in all the method and actions that we have. Maybe that will be a headache. So in this case, we create a log decorator. We can just put the console log that we need. In this case, example, calling a name with arguments, whatever arguments, and return the log that we have. And when we are visiting, you are using, for example, the CI visit. When we implement the log decorator, that means not only will visit the web page that we are sending, it will return the logs at the same time. And this gives us the ability to don't use all the times, only use when really we need it. So that will very useful the decorator pattern for simplicity. Fluent interface, it's also called method chaining. The Fluent interface is when you have different kind of connections in order to do actions. So you have packages and then matches, and those packages must be correlated with the same line that you are working in order to have a complete build. So we here we have I think so the code is easiest. We have the login page that we're talking in the POM, uh, and we can use the field username. We only need to add the return this. We have the field password and the submit. So when we implement in the test, we have our login page. We're gonna visit. We're gonna fill the username and the password, and then the submit. This means we are telling what are the next steps that I need to do when I am creating a test case. Some cases, and this could be controversial, but the project doesn't know how to use BDD as need to be used with discovery, formulation, and automation. So the people or the testers try to use Cucumber and Gherkin, trying to emulate the actions like clicking on, linking on, clicking a button, typing on, and I think so it's a level of complexity that we don't need to have in this moment. And I strongly suggest if you are like familiar with this kind of frameworks, you can use the Fluent interface because at the end it gives you the steps to reproduce or the steps to execute the test case. So this is controversial. In some cases, the people say no. The interface, Fluent interface, could be more problematic if we create only one simple login, for example, or simple method to add it. But in the example, I will try to see what are the benefits, the real benefit that we have. And we have the factory pattern. And the factory pattern, we have the intention to create a product. In this case, this is a real world example. We have the factory that created products, and we need to deliver, in this case, the product to a client or a company. So we have three different elements to transport this factory. And these elements, we can transport the packages in the earth, or by airplane, or by bus, or by ship, or whatever we need. So those are the channels that the factory use to move all the elements to the final user. In this case, that is the factory pattern. Something that is used by us, and this is a simple example, is for example a factory that create a user based on the needs that we have, an admin user, a guest, or a user that is registered. So we put into the right or into const, and then we can just call the factory, and based on the type of user that we want to use, we can only call that user and the elements that be inside of the user, of the admin, of the guest, or of the concrete user. So this is a simple way that we can just implement factory patterns. The last is the strategy. Imagine that you are in the airport and you want to travel directly to this airport. You have different ways to do it: by bicycle, by bus, by taxi. The strategy means that you are going to select what of these three ways to transport you are going to use based on the budget that you have, the time that you need to arrive the airport. So you will select the strategy to travel into the output. This is simple as it is. So this is a little bit bigger code, but it's simple to read. We have the assertion strategy. We have the context. Or this will be could be an abstract class or an interface, but we create our strategy. This will be inheritance by others. So, for example, here we have URL assertion that extends from assertion strategy, text assertion that extends from the same parent, and we only need to in the constructor define what are the elements. In this case, selector, expected text, and in the text we have should have text, and this is comparing the text. In the URL session, we're expecting a URL, and for example, in this case, is include. We can change what we need, and this is expected URL. When we try to implement, or when we're going to implement also, we need to have the context. The assertion context give me the way to execute what assertion, text assertion or URL section. For example, this set the strategy could be text assertion or URL assertion, and then execute what the execute method that we have inside. In this case, take the URL and verify. In this case, take the text and verify if is the expected text. So the implementation is as it is. We need to have our strategy, have our context that will implement the different strategies that we create based on the pattern that is the assertion strategy. This is an example of assertion. In some cases, when we are using Cypress, we have assertions like this should have text or should include. Definitely is very, very useful and very readable. But if we want to split all the assertions and be more clear what we are asserting in that moment for the people that want to create their own assertions, we will give them more context about if we're going to text assert a textual element or a URL assertion or whatever we need. So let's move to the demo. This is the quick demo. Okay, so this is the classes that I have here. I'm gonna close it then. Decorators, factories, fixtures, the data that I'm gonna extract, pages, strategies, and support. Yeah. What we have here in the fixtures, we have JSON files when we can extract information. In this case, the type of users, teacher, student, invalid combination, and in this case, a complete student, a complete information to add a student. Let me show you quickly what is application. The application is a school where you can add parents, students, teachers, add information, read information from table, create students, create panels, create classes. This is application that we are going to use. You can use it definitely in your examples. It's public. We have started, and you can start playing. I really love this because in our case, we're going to create not only the login, we're going to create a student, and a student has different ready buttons. In this case, data time pickers, drop down list, and big number buttons, a big number of items that we can interact directly. So one of the test case when you see the specs is creating a student, other is the login feature. So here we have our test, our specs. The first step spec is simple, simple, create login, verify that I'm logging it. But look, only one line will help to define that I am in logging in. And we have the login with invalid credentials. This is the only lines that we have for invalid login. But I can show you here why we can create, for example, and in some cases, we have this example login. Login, and we have string one, string two. Okay, that's enough, and it's readable. If we have little number of parameters that we can inside, but what if we try to add a student and we have a lot of numbers of items? Definitely, if we put a method with X number of parameters, it's not will readable. So for a reason, this is the Fluent interface login as with the user. I am extracting for the text, and I am using a factory. This is the switch we have. I have my factories here. For example, a student factory or user factory. I have my information extracted from the JSON file, and I am put it into a map in order to get the valid combinations or the get informations that I need. And I have invalid user, empty username and password, valid user. For students, it's the same. Create a student, and I need to have all the information that bring me the students in order to get those parameters. What parameters? For example, the username in the password in the case of users, and all these parameters in the case of students. So here we have the factory. The factory called the data, and the data is implemented with Fluent interface. And at the same time, we have obviously our web class login page with elements that we need to identify and the action that we need to perform. Yeah, we have different actions or commands that we can create in the context of the commands here in Cypress. So we talk about pages, we talk about Fluent interface, we talk about factories, and decorator. This is a simple decorator where when we are visiting, and maybe it's a problem that in the UI we face. One of those is how much time is consuming to load my page. So starting to get the time and see how much time is spending my page in order to load, and then if we need we can just create a strategy to perform. And we have the test assertion strategy, like you can see. Test assertion expecting information should be visible, or visibility strategy, and we can add more assertion based on what we need. The student spec is the most visual example because we are navigating and we have all the Fluent gender as with first name and last name with date of birth. I could create a method called personalitate with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 elements. But for the people who is creating the code maybe will not have any kind of sense where to put the gender, where to put the date of birth, where to put the city. So as you can see, Fluent helped you to have what are the next steps and what is the flow that you are feeling when you are creating your test case. I'm going to just run quickly on the view before just to show you how is execution. The execution is normal and definitely is faster as Cypress always gives the option to do it faster. I'm going to execute only the students. You can execute definitely the code. I will share with you the GitHub repo, and you will can run definitely these the two aspects, the login valid and invalid, and this that is create a student. So we are logging in, we are we're gonna create a new student. It will be very quickly. We only need to put the date. The methods that I create in the commands will give you the option to only put the date, and it will browse back or in the future. And always please delete the information that you have, because this is something important in order when we are creating data. Please delete it. And this is the end of the topic. Sorry. i I went more time, but definitely I hope these examples and the use of design pattern will help you for your projects. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
Gilberto, thank you so much. This has been an incredible presentation. From the costume to the content, we are all in with you. While we were bringing up the first question from the audience, I'm curious to find out, with all of these design patterns that you presented on, which one do you find yourself defaulting to? And is there any particular reason why?
Well, the faulting is the page of your model. This is the normal that I can say is more accurate for the automation UI. Other point, those patterns must be implemented not on a UI. Could be API, security, whatever kind of testing that you're performing. We're talking about UI specifically. So page object model, Fluent interface, Decorator when I need to do kind of login of the booking, and factories. So I think so those are the most common design patterns that I normally use when I implement. And then I start adding other, for example, observer for the results in order to see what is giving me the information when I am sending a response or getting a request. Observer could be very, very useful. But yeah, those are the normal patterns.
Awesome. I'm going to bring up the first question from the audience, and this one's a little longer, so we're going to take it in parts. So to begin with, for those just starting with Cypress, what are some key best practices to adopt early? And, what factors do you consider when you're deciding on which design pattern to go with?
Yeah, with the first question, Cypress, what are some key best practices? Uh, Definitely, these best practices. Cypress automatically, when you install it, give you all the structure and start giving you the good option to start creating. The first best practice that I think consider, in some cases, the people add functions like login, like create into the commands. I don't recommend commands. I only recommend for specifically methods that you are going to use over the time, or the drive principle. Don't repeat yourself principle. Command is for those. In you saw in the code, I will put the command like type when I need to clean before and then type. Or the read table. This is a command I'm going to use based on the number of tables that I have. So this is one of the most important practices. And definitely your code and your test code need to follow the arrange, act, and assert pattern that it's implemented here, but is not. But when I'm explaining, arrange is what we need to do before testing, act the action to test, and assert the assertion. In some cases, the people add more than two assertion. I don't recommend. I only recommend one, and two is, but I don't recommend like 100% if it is strongly needed. So that is another practices. And in that case, as this kind of best practices is the way that I decide which design pattern. So, for example, designing a page object model, this is the common. We have the code spaghetti, yeah, but we can reduce using solid principle. That is another topic that we can talk in the future. And for example, the decorator, if where I need to specify something very, very, or do something very specific, an action or for an element, and you can start doing, because when you know the best practices, you can match the design pattern that you need to implement.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gilberto.